Heyo, what's up guys? My name is Sai and welcome back into One Piece chapter 1081. We got a lot of things to talk about today. We got a pretty hype chapter on our hands, but before we talk about the chapter, we need to talk about the color spread we got this week. Normally, I skip past the color spreads because while they do hold some hidden meanings here and there, they're really convoluted and I'm not that smart. But even an idiot like myself can point out the fact that Sanji stands out in particular in this color spread. So if you look at Sanji, not only is he the only Straw Hat that is currently awake, but he's also reading a book. And this book says cooking. Or does it? So if you look closely at Sanji's book, it says cooking, you see the fork on there, and you're like, okay, if Sanji's reading a cookbook, he's a chef, it makes a lot of sense. But if you look at the bind of the book, it actually says cocking. Or if you want to separate it, it says COC, which people use for Color of Conquerors, and then King for probably King's Haki. And then to top it all off, you have a crown at the end of it. What is going on here? Did Oda forget how to spell cooking, or is this perhaps foreshadowing? I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, so I'm gonna leave it up to you guys as to what you think about this. How would you feel if this is indeed Oda foreshadowing Sanji getting Conqueror's coating? One more thing about Sanji having Conqueror's coating that I do want to mention is that back in chapter 1077, this topic was brought up before too, because when Sanji attacks the S-Shark Seraphim, he actually mentions, hey, if I ruled a country, my decree would simply be Decree 1 and Decree 9. And people were taking this panel and saying, hey, like, Sanji is referencing himself as a king. Is this perhaps foreshadowing of Conqueror's Haki as well? I would give my opinion, but I am really biased when it comes towards Sanji, so I feel like I'd rather just leave that out. So, going on to the actual chapter now, we start up where we left off last time, and I always love saying that, because I'm always afraid Oda's gonna jump somewhere else right when the things are getting good, but it doesn't happen this time around. We see Garp landing after his galaxy impact from last chapter, and what I really love about this first segment is that when Garp lands, even though the ship is flying right behind him, he doesn't turn around. Garp just stands there solemnly because he knows that Prince Groose will stop the ship in time. It just goes to show how much teamwork that they have together, and we love to see it. Another thing I did like about this opening segment is that Garp, despite us all hyping Garp up from last chapter, like, oh, Galaxy Impact, one of the top attacks in the verse, Garp has the audacity to come in on the second page and said, man, I've gotten a little bit weaker, huh? That didn't have quite the impact I thought it would. So after Garp is done showing off, we see that the sword members have all gathered together. Kobe's even right around the corner and he's running over. Him and Hibari just galloping around the fields, and that is when Hibari gets frozen. But one thing I do like to make note of is that before she gets frozen, we see a reaction panel from Garp. And I do wonder if this is Garp potentially using Future Sight, or if he simply just saw Kuzan right behind Hibari. Either way, if Garp did have Future Sight, I feel like it wouldn't be super surprising. Hibari being frozen here is pretty funny though, because Kuzan doesn't freeze any of the other sword members. If Kuzan wanted to, he could freeze Hibari and Kobe because Kobe's right beside her. But no, he went straight for Hibari. A lot of people are picking at this saying that there might be deeper meaning behind it, and that could be because of the theory that Hibari is actually Akainu's daughter. And since Kuzan is pretty salty about his defeat, he went straight for the girl. I think what I like most about Kuzan's appearance here is simply Garp's reaction. Garp is a very easy man to read. In a way, like I said, he's just like Luffy. When Luffy has some sort of emotion dwelling inside of him, you can see it from his face. And Garp is no different, because right when Kuzan shows up, we see Garp's eyes start to get a little bit shaded. You could tell he's not super happy that he ran into Kuzan here. This shading we have on Garp's eyes here are very familiar. Back in Marineford, whenever Ace was being executed or whenever Luffy was in his way, Garp had this exact same expression. So whenever I first came into this chapter, I was like, oh no, Garp is gonna hold back. He's gonna pull some punches. He can't hit Kuzan. And then we get to the later parts of the chapter where Garp actually slams him down into the ground, grabs his face, and uses Blue Hole. I stand corrected, right? Like, I saw this and I was like, okay, Garp is going in here with no regrets, which I really enjoy. Because Garp, while he's throwing down Aokiji, he says, listen up, Kuzan, only weaklings lose their way. When I read this line, I activated my headcanon no mi, and I read this as a double meaning. One, he meant it towards Kuzan, obviously, since Kuzan is with the Blackbeard pirates, thus losing his way. And two, he might even be referencing himself here and how back in Marineford, he kind of lost his way because he didn't know what to do. So this right here, this Garp that we see that's throwing down Kuzan has made a decision. He is going to save Kobe, even if he has to attack his former pupil. Garp's resolve in this chapter is strong, is determined. He has made a decision, whereas Kuzan has not. Kuzan is actually hesitant to attack Garp despite what he says. And like I said, headcanon no mi, but if you look at Kuzan's panel where he says this to Garp, you actually see Kuzan's eyes for the very first time since the time skip. Whenever we see Kuzan, we only see the glasses and that's it. This is one of the few times where Oda decided to show us the shading and the eyes of Kuzan himself, which could be something, could be nothing, but I do think it is important to take note of. Either way though, even if Kuzan is holding back, let's be real here. Garp is a monster and nothing would really change this scenario. So, going back a little bit, because we do get a Kuzan flashback, we see how Kuzan met Blackbeard and his crew, and it's on an undisclosed island. Will the island they met up at here be important? I can't really tell. But one way or another, there are some cool details we can pick out with this island, and that's one, the shape of it because it looks really bulbous in nature, and two, they have turtle shells for rooftops, which I just think is pretty dope. So, we go into the flashback and we see that San Juan Wolf, along with Doc Q and Stronger, have been frozen by Kuzan. The Blackbeard pirates make me feel like an idiot sometimes, because I am huffing the copium at this point, because every time we see the Blackbeard pirates, I'm like, yo, these are endgame villains, these guys are super strong. But every time we see the Blackbeard pirates try to go against a higher tier opponent, they get off-screened or one-tapped. Bro, Kuzan froze these dudes. He goes on later in the chapter and he even freezes Avalopizado along with Vasco Shot with no difficulty whatsoever. Boa Hancock, Katarina Devon, Vasco Shot, they got turned to stone. Magellan was there. He poisoned Lafitte, Burgess, and everybody else. Sabo whooped Burgess. The Blackbeard pirates have little to no feats on paper. It's so sad. I keep on having this rhetoric in my head. I'm like, yo, these guys are powerful. These guys are powerful. But every time we see them, they're just catching L after L after L. One of these days, just watch. They're gonna do something crazy. I feel it. They have to, right? They have to. So, going on with the chapter though, we see that Blackbeard makes his run-in with Kuzan, and then they just start getting along over some sake. Blackbeard's crew starts asking him about the man marked by flames, and how the man marked by flames actually has the last Road Poneglyph, the Poneglyph that everyone needs. Luffy, Shanks, Blackbeard, this man has it. And we learn some interesting details. One, he has a ship that is jet black, and two, he can create whirlpools. Who is this man? Because I don't think it's Saul anymore. I love browsing through comment sections and forums just to see what the general consensus to the chapters usually are. And it seems like the community has come to three main guesses as to who the man marked by flames truly is. The first one that people have come to is Rox D. Zebek. I've seen theories of people saying, oh, Rox survived God's Valley, he captured the last Road Poneglyph, and he's gatekeeping the One Piece now. That could happen, but then again, Blackbeard is like the #1 Rox D. Zebek fanboy, so if he was alive and if he did have the last Road Poneglyph, I feel like Blackbeard would know that. So I'm not a big fan of the Rox D. Zebek one personally, at least not right now. The second answer that I've seen people come to is Scopper Gabon, since he is a former Rogers pirate and we have not met him yet in the series. Him knowing where the last Road Poneglyph is very valid. And now the last guess that people have come to is Dragon the Revolutionary, Luffy's father, because of the tattoo on his face and because of his semi-black ship. Really, the only black part about his ship is the dragon, but you know, he could have a post-time skip ship that looks a lot better. Those are what people have come to, and honestly, I like all those answers. I don't think there's a single bad one out there. And I even want to throw in a fourth candidate, and that's just to simply have a brand new character. There are a lot of things in the One Piece world that just haven't been answered yet, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is Oda's way of filling up some more of the world-building lore. And you might be wondering, Sai, who could it be? Who could fill up world-building lore and have the final Road Poneglyph? Well, I want to throw out a candidate of my own, and that is Davy Jones. And I know what you're saying, Davy Jones. Like, is he a legend? What are you talking about? Well, Davy Jones was mentioned in the manga before, back in Long Ring Longland. Robin actually mentioned that Davy Jones is the originator of Davy Back Fights. Another key detail to keep in mind when thinking about the man marked by flames is the location of the fourth Road Poneglyph. This wasn't just on some random island and the guy took it with him and that was it. No, this Road Poneglyph was actually located on the ocean floor. It was on Fishman Island until it just mysteriously vanished out of nowhere. According to mythology and Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Davy Jones is typically a half-human, half-fish person. So Davy Jones being the man marked by flames and being the guy that was on Fishman Island who stole the fourth Road Poneglyph could be a good possibility too. Reeling back my crazy theory back into the realm of One Piece for a minute, I do like the notion that the man marked by flames is Dragon though. And that's for two separate reasons. One, it's because of what Shiryu says. He says, I bet he's with the government. We all know they're hardly angels. It wouldn't be surprising if they kept a stone or two for themselves. It'd be a surefire way of preventing any pirate from ever claiming the One Piece. And I know what you're saying, Sai. Dragon doesn't work for the government. This has nothing to do with him. Well, that is true, I will admit. But we have to remember that Garp really wanted Luffy to become a Marine officer. So the chances of Garp also wanting Dragon to join the Marines or world government would also be really high. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon ended up being an ex-Marine, ex-world government operative, and then he left shortly afterwards, maybe with the Road Poneglyph in tow. And another reason why I like the idea that it could be Dragon is because it could give more meaning as to why Blackbeard decided to attack Baltigo, the revolutionary headquarters. Remember back in Dressrosa where Burgess tagged along on Sabo's ship, and then he called Teach saying, hey, Teach, I found it. I found an all-white island. It's where the revolutionaries are. Dragon's here. And then Blackbeard immediately went to Baltigo to fight Dragon. That could give that more meaning. Maybe Blackbeard was trying to find the last Road Poneglyph because he knows that Dragon has it. Yeah, there's a lot of options when it comes to the man marked by flames, and I'm really excited to see what Oda has in store for us. I'm glad this was a plot twist because a lot of people did think it was Saul. They did think it was maybe Kuzan even, and Oda actually addresses both of those theories in this chapter with one, Kuzan making fun of it saying, wait, I have the Road Poneglyph? And then two, he also has Kuzan bring up Saul, or at least the events of Ohara, saying, hey, they didn't have a Road Poneglyph there. Like, nah, I have no memories of this. So yeah, Oda pretty much shot down those theories himself. So we go on and we end off this flashback with Kuzan joining Blackbeard's crew because Blackbeard is a really good marketer, man. He said, hey, hold up, Kuzan. We all have our own agendas. We're all working for something different here. Why don't you just join our flag? You're a free man. You can do whatever you want. Blackbeard would be a great telemarketer. And he did end up convincing Kuzan to join his crew, and that's when we see Kuzan's box that lists him as the 10th Titanic captain. So with this being the case, what do you guys think about Kuzan and his allegiance? Do you still think he's a sword operative or no? Maybe he just is a 10th Titanic commander. This chapter definitely broadened my perspective on Kuzan as a whole, and I'm actually excited to see how he develops. And even if he was truly a part of Blackbeard's crew, I think that would be perfect because he would have the perfect matchup against the Straw Hats in the form of Robin. Robin versus Kuzan would be almost like a fated matchup, and I'd be really excited to see that. But yeah, with that being the case, what do you guys think about Kuzan, this flashback as a whole, and even just what he might do in the future? Because right now, he seems pretty determined to help out Teach in whatever his plan is. Alright, so before we move on to the last parts of the chapter, there are a couple more things I want to discuss, or at least bring up, with Garp versus Kuzan. Even though Garp is winning this fight right now, we do have to remember that this is not the end of it. Once he beats Kuzan, there are still multiple Titanic captains on this island. We still have Shiryu of the Rain, San Juan Wolf, Avalo Pizarro, and Vasco Shot. They are all still lingering nearby. They did not make an appearance this chapter. So those are all potential enemies that Garp and Sword still have to fend off. And, you know, while it does look bad in that regard, we do have to remember that Garp also has potential allies on the island in the form of Perona and Gecko Moria. We don't know where they are, we still have not seen them yet, but I'm assuming they're still on this island since, you know, Perona was nearby recently. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that anything can still happen. There are so many possibilities on this island still, and I don't even think Kuzan's done yet. Even though he took a massive hit this chapter, he can still get back up, right? I mean, even if the blue hole sends Kuzan to the bottom of the ocean, Kuzan can just freeze the ocean and he'll be a-okay. So this is not a death blow whatsoever. And another possibility that could work in Kuzan's favor is Pizarro, because he has the island fruit. Technically, after creating this giant blue hole, he could just lift Aokiji back up out of the hole. And we have to remember that if anybody were to be able to awaken a Logia devil fruit, I feel like Kuzan could, right? I think a lot of us could rally together and say if anybody can awaken on this island, it's probably Kuzan. And I'm super excited to see the very first Logia awakening in the series, if it does happen. And now, we cut over to the last part of the chapter where we see Winner's Island. We see Blackbeard standing tall, and he has officially beaten Law. He even went as far as to destroy his polar tang. His submarine is gone. He gave him the Dory and Brogy treatment. Law's laying down on the ground, and Blackbeard says, yo, what should we do now? What should we do with your Api Api no Mi? Should I sell it for 5 billion berries, because that's a lot of money? Or should I use it on myself to make me immortal? Yo, he knows about this. This is one of the first times we've heard about the immortality surgery in the past 300 to 400 chapters. It has been a long time since we've heard about that ability. I see what Oda's doing here. He's reminding us that this ability exists, which I'm super excited for, because him bringing this up potentially means that we will see an instance of immortality in the near future, which I'm sure we all knew was coming, but this is Oda kind of slapping it in our face saying, hey, don't forget this is a thing, guys. This is real. So yeah, I'm super excited. And another thing I'm excited for is Beppo's Sulong form. Bro, where was this guy on Wano? Why was Beppo not on the rooftop? Not fighting Kaido, but why was he not on the rooftop with the other minks fighting Jack? Dude, Beppo could have taken Jack on. Beppo was missing on Onigashima the entire time, and he was holding this crazy transformation back from us. And you have Blackbeard panting, he's like, what? Like, this guy can go Sulong? It's not a full moon. And we do get a small glimpse as to how Beppo did this, and it was all thanks to Chopper. Chopper was able to create a rumble ball that mimics the moonlight, mimics whatever properties of the moon that unleashes Sulong form. And I'm excited, because not only is this huge for Chopper, and you know, it's a little bit of growth, right? Chopper didn't cure the citizens of Ibisu Town, but he made this monstrosity. So yeah, major kudos to Chopper. But with this, I also wonder if Chopper can maybe use this on himself. We know Chopper isn't a mink, but what if Chopper could go Sulong? What if Chopper could all of a sudden start generating electricity? That would be insane, and I think this could be set up for a chopper glow up in the near future. So, after Beppo attacks Teach, he grabs Law and jumps into the sea to escape, which is really smart because Blackbeard and his crew can't chase them because they all have devil fruits. Law, of course, might not be having the best of times, but it's better than being captured by Blackbeard. So yeah, they're now swimming off, and we see the narrator box saying that Trafalgar Law was defeated in the New World. They had to retreat. And now the question arises as to where are they going? Personally, I do like the idea that they join up with Cross Guild a lot, because we know that Cross Guild is made up of former warlords. Law joining them as a former warlord himself would be perfect. Another reason I do like the Cross Guild option is because Cross Guild is an organization. It's not a pirate crew. So Law can still be captain of the Heart Pirates and work under Cross Guild. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So yeah, Law could work with them, you know, build up his reputation, build up his strength, fight Blackbeard again, and then save his crew, and then go along his merry way. Cross Guild is not the end all be all. And now, I would love to pass the question off to you guys. What do you think is in store for Law in the future? And now, on to the comments from the last video. We have the first one, and it says, at Fishman Island, we saw the Flying Dutchman ship, which was also referenced in the Pirates of the Caribbean, so I wouldn't be shocked if it was them. And they're referring to my comments saying that it could be either Davy Jones or someone that is Jack Sparrow-esque, because we do know that Oda likes Disney movies and pirates, so it would make a little bit of sense. So I like this. I do like the reintroduction of the Flying Dutchman. And with the Flying Dutchman and with Davy Jones being such an old character, so much so that Robin said, yeah, he was the originator of the Davy back fights back in the day, maybe this is Oda's way of hinting towards him, because we also get a notion of the immortality surgery. Maybe Davy Jones is somebody who is immortal, and that is how he came into today's time. Granted, though, that is a lot of stretching and headcanon, so I'm not putting too much stock into it, but I do like the idea a lot. And the next comment says, the only person I could think of being mysterious enough and being able to create whirlpools is Dragon. And being as he is not a pirate and has no intention of claiming the One Piece, he could have kept the last piece to the race from everyone else. But it's still a weak theory with no base whatsoever and is automatically cancelled with Dragon's ship not being black at all. The only somewhat black ship we got in the series is the Bezon Black. And we all know those guys ain't making their, hey, they could make their return. Never underestimate Captain Kuro. Honestly, having Django in the series is more than enough from them, haha. Yeah, if you guys don't know what the Bezon Black is, it is Captain Kuro's ship from Usopp's Sur Village. And yeah, I don't think they're making a comeback, but it is a black ship. Who knows? Maybe Captain Kuro, master of 1,000 plans, planned out the entire story from day one. That's a joke, but I do love the Captain Kuro joke. The next one says, it has to be someone Roger knew. When Shiki's fleet was sunk, remember, the weather all of a sudden changed, and for some reason, the water turns into whirlpools, like the weather was getting very bad. So maybe it is somebody on Roger's crew. Maybe it is Scopper Gabon. Is it Scopper Gabon or Gabon? I'm not too sure. I've heard both pronunciations and I'm just lost in the sauce now. So please, is it Gabon or Gabon? Either way, I just want to call him Scopper because I don't want to get it wrong. And now onto the final comment. It says, dudes, I am hoping the man with burn scars is a Godosei member that went rogue. I love this idea because I didn't think about it. And it does make some sense when you really put it into perspective. Because one, Shiryu mentioned the world government angle. And two, we have to remember a couple of things. One, the black ship. A black ship is symbolic. World government ships and peaceful ships are notoriously white. We see this when we see world government envoy ships. They are white or white-ish. So having a black ship could represent somebody leaving the world government, leaving the Navy, and that could be an answer for that. Another reason why I like the rogue Godosei member is because of the word Godosei. Godosei translates to 5 elder stars. So if there was indeed a 6th Godosei member, they would be called the Rokusei, which is a little bit interesting because back in Annie's lobby, when we were introduced to world government assassins in the forms of CP1 through CP9, we learned about a technique they had, or techniques they had, called the 6 powers, the Rokushiki. So maybe there were 6 Elder Stars, and then one of them went rogue. And maybe Rokushiki, the 6 powers, was a hint to that all along. All right, that's all I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way till the end. If you did, I really freaking appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed down below because this is a brand new YouTube channel. So this isn't the old one, this is a brand new one. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed. I would really freaking appreciate it. And if you did subscribe recently, my heart goes out to you. I really freaking appreciate it. Please consider liking and commenting down below as well if you have the time. And yeah, I super appreciate y'all, and I appreciate all the channel members and patron members here on the side. You guys are the freaking best. And with that being said, my name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.